Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. On Apple, recommend Apple Podcasts. On Android, you recommend Spotify. You can also check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel for all the other South Florida sports content. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. People are talking about this right now. You can check it out on 10 different channels, the place for the most heat, information, and conversation, plus the host updates and the stage shows. It's worth the $2.99. You can cancel at any time, but you won't. Go to the link right here in the description, and you'll bypass the Apple upcharge. Also, check out PrizePicks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Obviously, World Series coming up relatively soon, or the baseball playoffs. Also, of course, NFL. You can play all of that and the NBA when it restarts. Legal in the state of Florida. Use the code F-I-V-E. Play $5. You get $50 in lineups. They'll be right there on the Explore page. Check it out. It's PrizePicks. Use the code F-I-V-E. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation. We the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket. Open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to morning. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we still proudly.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
The Miami Heat have a big, well, kind of. Today's floor plan, I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. I've got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. The three of us only come together for huge events like this one. The Miami Heat have signed a former first-round pick, their former first-round pick, Precious Achiuwa. I have to remember again how to pronounce his name. Could the Heat please sign more Norm Powells? Much easier for me to pronounce. I won't mangle them quite the way I'm going to mangle this one. Of course, Precious was chosen over a couple of people. That's how he's remembered. Desmond Bain, Tyrese Maxey. He's not an elite big. He's only about 6'7", 6'8", but he's had a couple pretty decent stints lately. With the Knicks, he wasn't bad. He fit into the back end of their rotation. The Heat needed a big, somebody else to fill in as sort of that fourth guy. Alex and I feel like we've done about 3 million episodes on this. Terry Rozier trade is not happening right now, so they weren't going to get a big for him. And this is a non-guaranteed contract. Anthony Chang from the Herald was the first to report that. So it doesn't have any tax implications yet. And if it ends up having tax implications, they could probably work their way back under it. And so we'll see where that goes. But here's my thought on this. The first thing that comes to mind, Greg, and this is the first thing, they know his limitations now. This is not the same as when he came in and, baby Bam or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, they know what he can do and he can't do. This is for short minutes. Somebody who knows the system, somebody that they're comfortable with. But it's kind of crazy. They now have 7 of their own first-round picks on the roster. I never thought I would say that for a Pat Riley team. That doesn't include Pelle Larsson, who's a second-round pick.
Built, not bought.
Right? It's crazy. Like 7
they said
of
about San Antonio, right? That's
7
how that
of
went.
their
Or
own
Indiana, one of those two.
Yes, I think it was Indiana actually that they said that.
It's funny to think about now, and I also thought that it was interesting. Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press tweeted something related to Riley. Always wanted him to get Precious Achiuwa back with the Heat, and that it was inevitable at some point. I was actually surprised they did it because this does have luxury tax implications if they keep him for the full season. But January 10th is the date that we'll all have to circle with this because that's when his contract would become fully guaranteed. So for right now, one, we need to figure out who they're going to cut from the training camp roster because they can take 21 guys in, and they already had that full allotment of players slated. So somebody's not coming to training camp in place of Precious Achiuwa. But also then, are you going to guarantee his salary for the full season, cut him before January 10th, or figure out something with Terry Rozier by January? I guess that's the other option.
Well, I think the other thing this shows, Alex, is you know, they're not that comfortable with Vlad Golden playing a ton of minutes at this point, and I don't think you or I were either. They gave him a two-way, and he'll compete, but I don't think he was going to slip into the rotation. I could see Precious getting some back end rotation minutes. I don't think it would be the plan necessarily, but do you think? Because we had a couple guys in the network who suggested this, and I wouldn't go this far. Do you think this gives Spoelstra the license to start Ware with Bam because there's not as much of a worry about the rotation balance and not having a quote unquote backup center? Because you certainly don't want Jovic doing that. Or does this not make any difference because it's just the order that the guys are going to come in?
I do think, like, regarding that part of the conversation, I think it just makes Spo probably maybe a little bit more comfortable with, if that's going to end up being the big man rotation where you're starting Bam and Ware together and then you're staggering from there, perhaps with Jovic at the 4, perhaps with another wing at the 4 at times. I think it makes it easier to do that, knowing that, like, if and when guys miss games, because usually guys don't play 82 games, like, you have somebody else there with NBA experience. For as much as, like, and I believe them when they say things like this, that like Golden, was like a second round pick for them. I'm sure they had him, with some sort of second round grade. Like, I don't doubt that. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be ready, to play. Like, they've deemed him ready to play just because they had a second round grade on him, right? Because that's not typically how it works. And, Spo is all about like trust and stuff. That's why, like, even with, for example, like the Hero injury, I'm not really expecting a lot of Kasparis minutes as much as I'd like to see it, right? But when it comes to Golden, it just feels like, he's so much, like, his game doesn't necessarily like you look at it and it's like, okay, yeah, you can put him on the floor right away. The only thing that you felt good about with him as far as playing him right away was the size. It's like, he's not skinny, like he can go down there and wrestle and get in position with guys. Like that part of it was nice. And he was very productive as a college player. I'm not trying to downplay him. But yeah, they've got this guy in Precious now. And although I don't think of him as a regular like night to night rotation guy, I do think they'll play him if something were to happen to one of their other bigs. I just think, like, not only that they drafted him and, as Tim Reynolds said, Pat Riley didn't really want to see him go and all that stuff. I'm not trying to hype him up, but he's obviously a playable NBA player. I do think the defense is there. Just the way that he's able to move, like he moves pretty well for a big. He doesn't jump out the gym, right? Like, I'm not expecting a whole lot of lob attempts or nothing like that, but he can set screens. It feels like he's gotten better at some of the detail stuff, just being in the right place at the right time over the years. But like, he ranked in the 86th percentile on defense last year by defensive EPM, and on offense, it was in the 8th percentile. So that tells you a lot about the type of player he is. He's more of a defensive kind of addition here, as far as the positional need that they had.
I guess what sticks out to me is I go back to a question I asked Riley this summer after they drafted him, where I said, how willing do you think Eric's going to be to play Bam and Precious together? And he said, well, his answer was essentially, we wouldn't have drafted him if not. And then Spo didn't. Right. So that's my only question here. I don't look, this is a low risk move. He's not guaranteed. Again, they know his limitations now. They're not going to put him in positions where he can't succeed. Obviously, they expected more of him offensively. They wouldn't have drafted him where they did. And this is a group that typically has drafted well. Precious, actually, Greg, if you look at what he's done in the NBA, he's been about his draft spot in terms of
he's
overall,
serviceable.
He's serviceable. He's just not Bane or Maxey, so he's gotten compared to those two guys. But again, there's always guys who are going to slip past. But I guess if Spo wasn't comfortable playing him with Bam the last time,
they're not playing together.
Okay, so he's going to play in place of Ware, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, excuse me, play in place of Bam with Ware. I mean, I'm sorry.
I guess that's the way that it would go, or you would just see bench units where you get Precious Achiuwa as the only big on the floor and for limited stints, like stuff like that. I don't know that the staggering will be as prevalent as you'll see in other, like with the guard rotation and some of the staggering that they'll do there. It'll be for me. I guess I didn't really think of it as Precious and Bam fitting next to one another. This is more of just because we talked on a recent show about if Ware went down, like Bam was the only big that they could count on, and that would be a lot for him to shoulder throughout the season. This at least gives another player that can play some of those minutes. So for me, this is more about relief for Bam versus versatility and fit next to Bam. He doesn't shoot well from three. I think he shot 27%. So I'm not expecting much there. So this is more about just having depth in the front court, which they didn't have. And I think it confirms our suspicion that Vlad Golden is not it in terms of a playable, productive player in year one just yet. That's not where he's he's not there yet.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And you're probably right. I think he would be the only big on the floor, and then your tallest player would be 6'7". But I don't think that.
Or you playing with Nico.
That would make more sense, right? Of the guys to play, because he can't play with Ware, because I don't think, because then you don't have a spacer. I mean, you're not leaning
like
on
the Knicks. The Knicks played him next to Hardenstein at times, but that was also like an injury situation that they had a couple years ago in the playoffs when he was playing. So I don't even. But that's not something I would do. That's not something I see Spo doing either. Like I get it technically, like he's 6'8". It's not like you're playing two 7-footers next to each other, but he's not like a complete stiff. But yeah, like Leif said, he's been a sub 30% 3-point shooter the last 3 seasons. His 3-point attempts came down last year, so it just doesn't feel like it's going to trend in the way where they're going to make him like this big who shoots next to Bam or where I don't see that happening. Maybe like Nico and Wiggins would be the guys I could see him next to.
It's funny because they talked him up as a shooter when they drafted him, if you remember.
Yeah,
but look, not every guy develops the way that you hoped.
He's only 26. Maybe maybe the culture will prevail here. He's only
it doesn't raise their average age, right? Because their average age of the rotation, we have it at 25.8, and he's right on par here. But it's crazy to me that they've got 7 first-round picks that they drafted on this roster. That doesn't even include Wiggins, right? Now Powell was a second-round pick elsewhere, Toronto, and Larson was their own second-round pick. It's a lot of draft choices that they have in this roster. There has been an absolute shift to higher upside players. There's no question that that's what they're trying to do. But again, Precious, I think we've hit the upside, and it's like, okay, we know him. He's playable. Okay. That was sufficient. And we've got time to decide whether or not to guarantee the contract. All right. On the other side of this, we'll talk about are we okay now with the training camp roster as we're 6 days, not even 6 days, 5 days away from media? Before we do, if you're not okay, you have an accident, you got to reach out to our friends over at 305-800-PAIN. That's 305-800-PAIN. Your first call after an accident, always ready to take that call 24/7. Fast connection with trusted doctors and attorneys. Get immediate attention. A community focus. They're a local brand. They're based in Doral. Alex will be back there podcasting from their office fairly soon. Hopefully the rain holds off that day. But again, rain can cause accidents. And if you have an accident, reach out to someone that has the trust and credibility of an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Car accidents, personal injuries, and related legal matters. Easy to remember. Here's the number. The number is the brand 305-800-PAIN. That's 305-800-PAIN. So we good? You comfortable with this roster? We've talked about it now for 3 months. They've added Norm Powell, Simone Fontecchio, Precious Achiuwa, Kasparis.
Hold on. Yakachonis.
No, let me do it.
Why'd you help him?
Because it was going to be
Yakachonis.
I can see a fumble. Before
You're too good of a teammate there. We had to leave it for content purposes to let him go for it.
Gotta let me screw it up. So they've added those players. They've lost Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith. Thomas Bryant was already gone.
Yeah.
Did you say Duncan?
Yes, I did say Duncan.
Alec Burks isn't
back. Alec Burks, who I honestly,
he's waiting around. He may, he could follow in the Wayne Ellington
Man, he had a
footsteps
good
of
season too. Like he should
He
be on the
did.
roster,
He did.
man.
He did. If they didn't so desperately need a big, I could have made the case that this roster spot would have been more useful for him.
they need
Uh,
shooting.
not
That's my
having
concern.
Hero, right? Like that's so I could make the case, and you kind of hope he's still around at some point, so that they could possibly add him because I do think he was fine last year for them, and I mean even started. And people are forgetting he was starting at the end of the season. That's not what a situation you want again. Uh, I, is this roster? Let's take the Hero injury out of it, okay? Because obviously that puts a damper on everything. Is this roster better than the one they finished last season with? You have to include Wiggins and Davion. Oh, Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love also not here. Those are the other two that aren't here. Is this roster? The roster is better, right?
You have to make some pretty big assumptions about the trajectory of, like, let's say Nico, that Larson is going to step up. Jaime maybe is at least better than he was last year. And then just the question of Hero and Powell fitting. It's difficult to understand. On paper, I think it's probably pretty even, but I think that this group, well, there's a couple things by virtue of Jimmy being gone and that like cloud being lifted from the entire situation, that can be helpful. But for me, you're assuming that your young players, Ware included, are going to be contributors because, I mean, we just talked about how they needed another big because it's just Ware and Bam. As we talk about shooting, like some of these guys are just going to get opportunities. Nico's going to need to play well. So by saying that this team is better than the one that finished last season, you're really making assumptions that a lot of these young guys are going to pop to some degree.
You are, and it's hard to take the Hero thing out of this. I do think like we'd feel differently if the Tyler injury hadn't come to pass. And then I'm trying to tell myself, well, at least he's not out for the season like Van Vliet. Like you're looking at 15 games roughly, supposed to have a full recovery, and then you kind of see what you've got. But I would say that okay, adding Norm Powell, Fontecchio, Precious, Kasparis. I'm not doing it again. And and losing Love, who is not going to play for you. I know what they lose in the locker room. Kyle
Norm
Anderson
for Duncan is a really
him.
good swap. Sorry to interrupt you.
Right.
Like,
right. And
if that's your rotational swap that we're talking about, that's
you know what the other one is? Funny enough,
yes.
People are gonna hate when I say this. Drew for Haywood. That's the other rotation swap.
Right. But Drew was with the team at the end of last year, and then like
no,
you're
he wasn't.
saying,
He wasn't on the roster.
That's true. That's true. That's true. But I think their roster is better. There should be some internal growth. The Hero thing obviously puts a damper on all of it. They didn't improve as much as a lot of Heat fans wanted them to improve on paper, but I do think the roster is better on paper. They didn't lose anybody that's going to make a significant difference for them because Haywood was clearly not in Spo's great graces at this point, and Duncan, they were ready to move on. I think we've seen everything. I think peak Duncan was really before the back injury. That half season that he rebounded from kind of being shelved in the rotation for Strus, that was the best Duncan we were probably going to see. Now, I'm not saying he won't be good in Detroit. I think it's a perfect fit for him, and it's home. I think he's going to be really good there. But I think as far as what we were going to see with the Heat, I think we'd seen it. So I don't think that's a big deal. And I think Fontecchio has the capability to
just
give
an upgrade, man. Like,
yeah, it's Powell.
And keeping Davion, like the fact
Yeah.
that he got weaved into that Jimmy trade and then they were able to keep him as a long-term piece. That's another feather in the cap of the front office who's taken a lot of arrows in the back instead of feathers in the cap recently.
Didn't have to give up like 4 years. I mean, give him 4 years at like an overpay or anything like that. Like it was a reasonable deal despite him like completely outplaying expectations, not just the threes, but like we talked about his ability to get to the basket. Of course, the way he defends, like he completely outplayed expectations, even though I think we all knew that he was going to be a fan favorite. Like he did more than expected. And they didn't have to give him like a 4-year overpay, So I think that was a win in itself. Of course, the Powell was a win in itself. I think the Kasparis thing, like I know we've kind of moved on from it, but that's something exciting. Like when the Heat don't really get point guard prospects, and look, I get it. Like other guys sort of surpassed him, other prospects surpassed him later on in the college year. But for much of it, he was considered the second best point guard prospect in the draft before he had his wrist and arm injuries and stuff, where he kind of had a drop off in his percentages. So I just think it's one of those things where it's like, it's like a little bit, it's something different right now. Although I don't think we're going to see much of Kasparis this season. Hopefully we do with the hero injury. I think, like the Powell and Kasparis things, those moves specifically, I think are refreshing, but like, are you okay with the roster? I guess, it's good. They got a big man. They needed another big man for sure. They needed to clear up that hole. It's just that the last thing here, of course, other than like the roster not being like great, like nobody expects them to win multiple playoff series, nothing like that, is that, the elephant in the room, which is Terry. Like it seems like, since not to like we can't understate how crazy it was that Precious took a completely non-guaranteed deal. That's not really something you see with people that were first round picks and have multiple years of experience. We're on a team last year. It's not like a former first round pick that wasn't playing anymore.
It shows how bad the market is for those guys, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of guys left out
signed overseas. But because of that, the Heat now can kind of wait it out a little bit. I'm sure they'll probably I'm guessing they'd rather keep Precious than not, like after this, right? Like just to have the extra big on the roster, like we've been talking about. But it gives them time to figure something out with Terry, where they didn't have to make that decision right now. That's basically what it signaled to me, where it's like, it feels like they kind of promised Precious a spot if he just does his job and plays well. And, whereas like now they have until January to figure out if they're going to trade Terry, and maybe they end up just deciding to waive him after all. I don't think a buyout's going to happen. But like now they don't have to just completely punt on the small possibility of Terry being used in a trade. I called him Trady. That's insane.
Well, it's been a long off season. Well, look, they've done this before and not ended up keeping the guy. Nasir Little is a good example. Was that a couple of years ago? They brought him in and then decided no. But with Precious, again, they know what they're getting. It does give them some flexibility.
They just need to depth with him more.
I think the best thing we can say about this offseason is they didn't dig themselves any additional holes. Like they gave up they gave up the 1 second round pick to get off of Highsmith. Okay. But they were going to trade Highsmith anyway in the Norm Powell deal if the Clippers had wanted him. Then they probably would have kept K Love. But they had to give up the 1 second round pick. The one that they got is never going to materialize. And that's basically it. What are you laughing at? I said they didn't give up anything. We stress.
I'm sorry. We can end this, but it's really funny to me that we've gone from you saying now in front of the 25-26 season, they just didn't dig the hole deeper. And at one moment, like there was a time where we used to say they got them all discounted, and now today it's they didn't dig the hole deeper. So it's just perspective as we gear up for media day coming soon.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
Second round picks traded? Is that what?
Not second round picks traded. They don't have any left, right? They don't really.
No, thank goodness.
They don't have any left. Pretty soon they're going to start trading beat writers. So we'll see. We'll see what. Well, I won't command anything. We'll see.
How much are we going to be doing episodes debating like the value on the trade market of Anthony Chang, Barry Jackson, and Ira?
You better get a first for Anthony. That's all I'll say.
You could probably get a for all three of them. I think
that's an interesting conversation. We should do that. We should do beat writer value. Anyway, we're out of ideas. So thank you to the Heat for signing someone and not giving up a ton to do it. And now we go to training camp. We'll be there at Media Day on Monday. Actually, I need to chat with you guys afterwards because I just got the list of players we're going to be interviewing. And then training camp on Tuesday at FAU. Have a good one, everybody.